What do you think that China's objective is, specifically with regards to this upcoming election?
Ultimately, if you go back to the four primary goals of the Chinese Communist Party in order, number one is to maintain power within China. Number two is to return Taiwan back to China. Number three is to give themselves regional dominance. And number four is to give themselves global dominance. And a more docile United States, one that is either distracted by dysfunction and infighting, or a United States that is strongly dovish in the sense that China can achieve those objectives without American interference, either capability or will. Those are the types of things that China and Russia are actively pursuing against the United States. And probably the one that they are pursuing the most is sowing seeds of dysfunction and divisiveness within the United States, regardless of who wins. And the concern of the United States should be that our greatest threat isn't China, but our greatest threat is a dysfunction within our political system that makes us incapable of responding to a variety of the challenges that we face internationally and domestically from the United States.
And what do you think is the solution for that?
The solution ultimately is for us as Americans to get back to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and demanding that our leaders do the same. When I was a senior defense official in Iraq, one of my roles was to represent the United States military to the senior leaders of Iraq. And one of the guys that I met with weekly was a general named Abdul Amir Urala, their chief of defense, their CHOD, their chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, an Iranian-aligned guy that hated Americans and probably hated me. But where we found ourselves to have productive professional weekly meetings was by looking at his objectives and looking at our objectives, both his personal objectives and his nation's objectives and our nation's objectives. And instead of lingering on those areas where we were different, cultivate the fertile ground where we overlapped. And in the United States, in the Senate or in the House or the executive or the judicial or the legislative branch, there is plenty of room around support and defend the Constitution of the United States, where we should recognize that we have real problems in this country that require real solutions. And that means working with a variety of people that have also taken that oath. And instead of shouting at each other about our differences, we need to realize that we can't solve the real problems that exist by shouting at one another. We need to find those areas where we overlap and find solutions within those areas, both domestically and internationally.
That's pretty interesting. Getting into a shouting match with an Iranian general would really be unproductive. So you'd think maybe Congress can, like fellow Americans, would be able to not resort to that.
It blows me away. It truly blows me away that with Abdul Amir Urala, this Iraqi general but Iranian aligned, we had these rich hour-long weekly meetings that were massively productive. If I could do that with Abdul Amir Urala, how can Republicans and Democrats who swore the same oath to support and defend not do that far more productively with one another?
Well, because the one side is reptiles.
Well, which side you're not going to say. But you were right in the sense that, like, it seems that I don't know if I want to say conventional wisdom, but the idea now is that to win elections, you have to demonize the other side, and rally your team and your base. And if you're seen to work with the enemy, that is like a death blow. You're never going to get elected.
And we're never going to get anything done either. And you're right. There are these series of perverse incentives within our federal political system where people benefit electorally and with power or attention or fundraising because they say the most radical, flamboyant things and they demonize the other side. I want your listeners to check me on that. TeichertforMaryland.com is my website, and you will never see that from me. I am here to solve real problems with real solutions. That means working with a variety of people. I don't know if I'm going to be able to win performing that strategy or not, but it is the best thing for our country to have leaders step into the political realm and be willing to take the risk, one, to run, but two, to do so in the right way so that we can finally get back to solving problems instead of yelling at one another.
Or you could come up with clever nicknames to call your opponents.
Yeah, that does work. I'd rather use nicknames to rally people and inspire people around the things we can do together instead of just vilifying others.
Yeah, friendly Joe. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the podcast. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
I enjoyed myself. You guys had a great podcast and a great interview. I would encourage your listeners to check out my book, Boom, and to check me out at teichertfrommaryland.com. And I appreciate every minute that we spent together.
Absolutely. He said a lot of really inspiring things, like, obviously I'm that perfect model of leadership for you guys. I'm always open to listening to your suggestions. You admire me tremendously.
Did he say that something about admiring the leader tremendously? I don't remember that part.
I'm pretty sure he did. And I know you do.
And the way you crush your opponents, like me.
That's true.
It really works.
Who is on my team must struggle resolutely against your own team.
Well, I mean, I guess in a way that is like the exact opposite leadership strategy of the Chinese Communist Party. Right. Now that you make that joke, right?
That's right. You see, my jokes have a purpose, purpose.
Unlike my jokes.
But yeah, I mean that is that is the thing about the communist system is it's weird because it's not like a dictatorship in the conventional sense where it empowers a single individual. It's this system that perpetuates the system itself at the expense of chewing through human lives, including people in the party.
Well, I mean, sometimes it does empower an individual like Mao.
Mao, yeah. Well, I mean, he was, I think, the best communist.
Right. But also consider the immense power struggles that Mao had to deal with. Like the entire decade of Cultural Revolution, which was horrible for the entire country, was basically Mao starting to get purged and then using his sort of cult of personality as a way to maintain power when he otherwise would have been purged.
Yeah, because of the failures of the Great Leap Forward.
Yeah. So, yeah, not a great system. I mean, I think that there's always, in any country's leadership, there's going to be some kind of disagreement about how to do certain things. But I would say that because the U.S. has more of a rules-based system for who gets elected, not perfect, but it's basically a rules-based system. Whereas in communist China, it's a no rules mafia, free for all, essentially.
I mean, there are rules, but you can have somebody come in and remake the rules, like Xi Jinping, right?
Right. So if a leader can arbitrarily remake the rules, then what are those rules? Whereas in the U.S., if you want to change the Constitution, it's extremely difficult, and there's only been, a couple dozen amendments in 250 years.
There you go, running your mouth, sleepy Matt.
How long were you thinking about that while he was talking?
Matt Sanctimonious. I'm not good at this. This is why I'm not running for president.
Okay, wonderful Chris.
I love you. The country will be great when I take over.
A supreme leader.
Mm-hmm. For life. The last vote you'll ever need and you'll ever get. Yeah, I wish we could talk about the Taiwan election, but that's happening tomorrow.
And it will have already happened by the time everybody's watching this.
Yes.
So,
but if you're watching this now, we will have something coming out about the election on the next podcast. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll have a week to settle the fallout of whatever happens.
Yeah, I really hope a week from now it's not like, oh my God, they actually did invade. I really don't think they will.
I don't think they're gonna. I read a Substack today where the person was like, yeah, no, they'll invade in the spring. And I was like, oh, good.
No,
that's because of the Blackwater guy said so.
Well, lots of people have said 2024, and I think it's ridiculous myself. However, I will just give one little interesting factoid, because I have some friends who are in Taiwan. Actually, the Anderson, our video editor, is in Taiwan. And so China launched a satellite last week before the election. And so Taiwan sent out a presidential alert to everyone in the island about it, and they translated it into English as "missile fly over Taiwan airspace. Be aware."
Yeah, that got really contentious, because then you had different political sides accusing other political sides of trying to drum up scare tactics ahead of the election by calling it a missile. Whereas probably it was just some person who did not do a good job translating and like then accidentally caused an entire political incident.
Or the reptiles control everything. That one didn't land. I don't know why.
I don't know, Chris, because maybe it seems like people might take that seriously.
That's true. The internet does take things seriously about reptiles.
And now this entire podcast is going to get erased from YouTube.
Oh no! Oh, by the way, I needed to say this. You mentioned about possible foreign interference in the election. The 2020 election was the most secure election in the history of the world. It was perfect. It was the best. Don't delete this, YouTube, please. Please.
I really want to end this on another note.
Okay.
Well, so I will say one thing about
another note. Nice.
I'll say one thing about the Taiwan elections, which, you know, we don't know the result of it as of this recording, but you will know it while watching it, which is that there's a debate politically in Taiwan about whether to stand up to the CCP or to try to work with them.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and General Teichert was talking about this, right? Like, it's if you demonstrate will and resolve to stand up to a threat, then you are actually less likely to be hurt or invaded, not more likely.
Another brilliant speech from glorious Matt.
Thank you, wonderful Chris.
Thoughts, Shelley?
Smart Shelley? Sarcastic Shelley.
Wait, hold on. Is that a compliment?
It is coming from me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I appreciate your wit, Shelley, and your cutting
Thank you for watching
sarcasm
China
as it comes to
Unscripted.
me.
I'm Chris Chappell.
We have to stop before it gets too nice.
Yeah. I'm getting uncomfortable dealing with emotions.
We will not. Okay, our next show, Emotions Unexpressed.
No more new shows.
That's actually a British show.
Emotions Unexpressed.
Yeah. All right. Well.
I'm Shelley Zhang. Is that where we're going?
Yes, and I'm Matt Gnezda.
And I'm Wonderful Chris. I'm going to go back to that. Thank you for watching.
I think this is the first time we've gone off the rails during the outro. Like during the actual part where you just say, I'm Chris Chappell.
An outro is just the intro to another segment.